Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, last time we'd taken out my most hated Season 5 episode. This time let's take out my most hated Season 6 episode. It's not the Splinter, Truth or Square, or even the card. It's this episode, Pets or Pests. Which even I find odd because no one really talks about this episode. Like, ever. Even though it has elements of all three of the aforementioned episodes. But, believe it or not, my main problem here is that the story is extremely confused. Let me explain. It starts with SpongeBob and Patrick playing a game of leapfrog that ends with them rolling into some brambles.
Patrick, maybe we should play something that involves less thinking.
Like hide and seek! Oh wait, I haven't reviewed that episode yet. Anyway, they find what they think is a ball. It's not. It's actually a worm. And we've already gotten to the major problem with this episode. And that problem is the worm. There are two ways that this episode could have me feel about the worm. It's a vile vermin that needs to die, or it's a misunderstood creature that's wrongly hated by the world around it. The episode kinda tries to do both, and it kinda tries to do neither. SpongeBob thinks it's gross, but after like one extra second of looking at it, he likes it, and the worm likes SpongeBob back. Correct me if I'm mistaken, because this is going to be a major problem, but worms are dogs in the SpongeBob universe, right? They act like dogs, and they're usually treated like dogs. So I'm going to see this worm as a dog, which is further evidenced when Gary doesn't get along with it whatsoever, and the worm barks like crazy. Keep that in mind. I actually kind of see it as a pug in reality. A dog that has a reputation for its less than appealing appearance, but is still a dog in pretty much every aspect. SpongeBob tries to get Gary and the worm to get along, but that ends with Gary going crazy and attacking SpongeBob. I'm going to say another problem with this episode is that the worm does absolutely nothing wrong, besides apparently looking hideous, and that sends some very odd implications. And to tell you the truth, the worm doesn't look that gross, even more so with this episode airing after the Splinter. Patrick leaves because all of the reasons I guess.
I'm the best pal ever!
And we deal with SpongeBob screaming some more. SpongeBob lets the worm sleep with him and has Gary resign to the guest newspaper. Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the elements of a pal for Gary that first showed up here, but I already covered that episode. I'm done with that episode. The next morning, the worm is howling in pain because it's in labor. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that this was written by the same guy who wrote Ren Seeks Help. Let's just say he's got some certain themes in his work. So the worm gave birth to a few puppies. Gary and the worm get into a fight, and that sends the worm packing. Now, if you're wondering if this episode makes Gary unlikable, the answer is no. He's a cat and the worm is a dog. They fight. It's kind of natural, at least in cartoons.
This town is getting too rough for me.
Does this mean that you'll move to someplace far away and never be seen by anyone here again? So SpongeBob wants to find homes for each and every one of those infants. Now, if you're wondering, I actually have seen a dog give live birth, and newborn puppies look nothing like the cute things that you hear about. So I kind of see what they were going for here. But that doesn't excuse the fact that we're now at the worst part of the episode. The first half at least had somewhat of a plot. The second half kinda just meanders from point to point. SpongeBob asks Squidward to take some of the puppies off of his hand, and gross out. Yay! Alright, here's the episode's main problem. It wants me to see the baby worms like bugs or rats or other vermin that need to be stepped on, due to how everyone reacts to them. And I really don't. They've done nothing wrong except look a little off. Giving this episode the benefit of the doubt, though, if I did find the baby worms disgusting and repulsive, I would find SpongeBob a complete idiot for not seeing what's right in front of his face. Then we get to everyone's favorite part of this episode, the doorbell gag. When SpongeBob goes to Mrs. Puff's house, he rings the doorbell for a full 30 seconds. I'm not even kidding. He pushes the doorbell in real time for 33 full seconds. Mrs. Puff doesn't tell any jokes on the side either. It's just attempting to make small talk. That is one of the worst gags that I've ever seen on this show. The only way that it could possibly be worse is if they used a realistic alarm clock sound effect. Oh yeah, on a tangent, if you're making a show, never use a realistic alarm clock sound effect. It just automatically takes your viewers out of the experience. The worms cause Mrs. Puff to inflate, and that ends the scene, which did absolutely nothing. For some bizarre reason, SpongeBob knows Larry, but Larry doesn't know SpongeBob. I don't know if this is nitpicking or whatever, but how the hell does Larry not know who the hell SpongeBob is? I mean, you could make an argument that this episode takes place before episodes like SpongeGuard on Duty, but they even make a joke about how SpongeBob should have known Larry by now. They also talk like they're old acquaintances. Now Larry, after hearing that SpongeBob has baby worms, decides to take them and eat them because they're live protein. And what the fuck? Seriously? Okay, let's count everything that's wrong with this. First of all, Worms and SpongeBob are dogs. They already made that comparison in this episode. True, newborn dogs don't actually look like dogs. They look more like rats. But Larry knows that they're worms. He was told that they're worms, and that's what sparks his interest. He's trying to eat them alive. I mean, what the actual fuck? What's to stop Larry from going down to the animal shelter and ordering himself up a snack? The implications of this... Wait, no. They're not implications at all. This is what you're directly stating. SpongeBob then attacks Larry, this guy who he's never met. Wow, if this was their first meeting, I don't really know why they're friends. A truck is about to run over baby animals. Or was it sushi? I can't tell anymore. Are they gross? Are they food? Or are they worthy of protection? It can't be all three. You have to pick one and stick with it. Apparently, they're valuable enough to have SpongeBob be the good guy as he dismantles the truck from the inside out. By the way, if infant dogs were launched into the air like that, yeah, they'd be dead. Mr. Krabs calls SpongeBob through a payphone and says that he's late for work. Mr. Krabs wants to see the baby worms, and gross out. Then they're considered vermin. This scene was totally pointless. Actually, every scene after the worm gave birth has been just that, pointless. They could have been cut out altogether. I don't mean that you could have had SpongeBob give some of the worms away, but you could have made SpongeBob more and more sad or desperate. The plot doesn't know what to do with itself, except, I guess, end. A garbage man comes by and decides that the pets are valuable. So Mr. Krabs decides to exploit it. Yep, he comes out on top for no apparent reason. This was a total Deus Ex Machina. Something or someone comes out of nowhere and wraps up the plot. Most episodes that I cover at least know what they're trying to do, but I don't think this one does. It's telling me two different things at the same time. It's telling me that the baby worms are horrible vermin. It's also telling me that the baby worms are in need of protection. You can't just have both going on at the same time without some reason, especially because the baby worms did absolutely nothing to help me make a decision either way. And it just leads to a lot of confusion. The characters that were afraid of them and tried to eat them had all the same information that I did. Oh yeah, and why the fuck doesn't Larry know who SpongeBob is? Enough of this. What are we doing next time? Something good, I hope.
Hey, where's the bathroom in this place? In a brand new series, Sheen from Jimmy Neutron is entering a whole new world, Planet Sheen.
Oh, fuck me.